Hello. Today we're going to be talking about the new Kill Team Kill Zone Beta Decima and how it's going to work. They need to come up with a snappier name. I am not spending the rest of this season referring to Beta Decima. Right, Into the Dark rolls off the tongue. Beta Decima. Anyway. Just to remind you of what we know from Warhammer Day. Okay, so you have seen this slide before. I mean, you'd also seen this slide before, but that's not supposed to be in the deck, is it? Obviously, I messed up, right? But you've seen this slide before. These are just the things we know from Warhammer Day in recap, okay? So it's that sci-fi Rivertown or oil rig idea that I'd sort of floated. The water was said on the stream to be very deadly. It is, I'm going to break out the odd laser pen here so you see what I'm talking about. It is supposed to be 2 maps. Now, I originally thought this was the second map with all the terrain shoved into the bottom half. No, this is about 4 of the boards all placed next to each other. So, hang on, let me get the pen out here. Yeah, we're gonna have some scribbling time. So, this... Come on, draw. Yeah. This, in orange, is the same as what we have over here. Okay? So this is one board, and it seems to come down about here. Okay? And then, if I change my ink colour here, there we go, ink colour, let's change that to this one. It seems like we've got another board up the top here, right? So we can see kind of half of the other side of the board, and it looks like the only difference between the different boards is that the back half has this printed central kind of gantry spanning across the short edge of the swimming pool, okay, lengthways, with what looks like the actual drill from the oil rig thing going down into the water, and some printed on gantries like that, okay. Now, this up here, right, is clearly the top of this, isn't it? Or it's very similar to it. You've got the grey ring, you know, you've got the thing, and they've printed one on the centre of the board. The more I look at this, the more I basically question whether at some point in the development of this set, there was more plastic in the box. And at some point, a manager came along and went, oh, we can't, you know, I'm sorry, Elliot, we can't put that many sprues in a box at a sensible price that people will pay. So, you know, you're going to have to lose a couple of frames of terrain. And then they went back and they printed some of the terrain on the board. You know, because that's what it looks like to me. It looks like this, right, is a combination of like one of these, and then one of these, and then another one of these getting across the edge of the board. But like on the one hand, part of me is like, oh well, you could just buy like loads of sets, and you could have a you know, you could have it all in plastic, and you can make it all modular, and you can move stuff around. And it's like, yeah, but if this is the product now, this is what we have, this is what's going to be in the official rules for the map. And I'm presuming there's going to be a map pack, like Into the Dark, right? So there's going to be an official... Because it's such a... As we'll look at in a minute, it's such a peculiar thing to set up that I'm pretty sure there's going to be predefined layouts for it. So, like, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but this is the game now. So if we want to play with this new Season 3 way of playing, this product with these printed boards is what it is. Unless they're going to release, like with Box 2 of Season 3, there's going to be another terrain set, which, you know, set on the same world, right? Perhaps with a lot of the same sprues, but they could give us a separate board. And then the idea is, it may be, like, just hear me out here, what if in Season 2... Sorry, Box 2 of Season 3, they gave us the same terrain again, but with a plain ocean board, and they're like, oh, well, if you combine this with the box from Season 1, you know, then you can have a board with enough terrain on it, and you can have it more modular. I don't know. Personally, I kind of hope they don't do that because I don't want to have to keep buying. The whole nice thing about them separating the teams boxes and the terrain boxes is I guess I don't have to keep buying the terrain over and over again. So let's talk more about the printed board anyway. The printed board's really interesting. So there was a point where we were looking at this picture, and if you look at this picture, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 striking scorpions, and I'm pretty sure there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another 6 at 5. I think there's a 6th scout somewhere that I've just missed. But the point is, there's only 12 models on this table, and it looks really full. You know, because so much of it is wiped out by water, where nobody can stand, and then there's 9 objectives. I mean, there's 9 objectives or 8 objectives or whatever it was, but there's too many objectives as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 objectives. So there's 8 objective markers. There's all this water. There's 3-dimensional objective markers. There's not that much space for miniatures. And at one point, Zimbad was saying to me that, oh, do you think it's a smaller board even because it looks really full? And I thought it could be. And then I did this in Photoshop to try and, as far as I can work it out from my kind of inexact science here, it looks like to me like it's the standard kill team size. But just the fact that there's so much area where you can't place minis, things are going to be really, really cramped. So while it will be a shooter's, you'd think it would be a shooter's paradise, but you're going to be really crammed in, I wonder, and I should have written this in the slides, but it's a video, so me speaking is just as good. In fact, most people don't read the slides, do they? But I wonder if, if you've played Warcry has the thing where you split your team into 3 groups, and then they can come on different sides. If you look at how muddled the board looks, I mean, I know they just put models on for Photoshop, for a photo shoot, I should say here, but it doesn't look like a natural game state. It doesn't look like a natural game state. Maybe they're going to have a system where, a third of your team is in your deployment zone, and then in turning point 2, another third of your team can come on from one of the 2 long edges, and then in turning point 3, the other third of your team can come on from the opponent's board half or something. I don't know whether that will be good. But with so much unusable terrain, or maybe you activate some of these things like their little beacons, and then because some of them do look kind of beacon-esque, and then you guys can come in around the beacons. It just seems to me like if you just have, I'm getting totally out of order of my slide deck, but basically, I can do what I like, right? I'm gonna go over here. If you imagine the map, right? If this is your deployment zone, right, here, and you cram your miniatures onto the deployment zones, I mean, you can't. It's difficult for me to see. Yeah, if you had to deploy 15 Krieg there, and then you've got this little path here, and you've got this little path here, and you're just going to conga line up the board in 2 paths. I don't. I'm just struggling to see how it works. Let's go back because I've gotten ahead of myself. So the printed board, the printed board, I think it's the standard size. Okay, has those 2 layouts, has that printed path around the edge, and I'm guessing it was required following playtesting. Because both the boards have this printed path around the edge, they are going to start to feel very samey after a few games as well. Zimbad reckons it makes every map 70% the same as every previous. I'm not sure about the maths on that, but it certainly is gonna. I'll be a bit wishy-washy, but it certainly does it's going to make the games feel very similar. Now, I'm not that worried about that because I know how few games of Into the Dark I've managed to play. Right, this is never going to supplant Octarius. it's gonna go in rotation, right? So in a month with 4 games of Kill Team in for me, right? Because that's what a month looks like. We'll probably play 1 game of this, 1 game of Into the Dark, 2 games on Octarius or another Season 1 board. So I'm only going to play, 12 games of this before the edition changes in reality, plus whatever is picked up in events. So I personally, because I don't have that much time to play, I play once a week at most. I mean, quite often it gets called off with one thing or another, and it's going to go in rotation with all the other stuff. So I'm maybe going to play 10 games. 10 games with Zimbad of this new Killzone, and then, if events adopt it, which is a big if, because of course the terrain, it's a weird one, because the terrain isn't coming in the big box with the teams, so less people will have it kind of organically, because, I really want breaches, so I'll buy this giant box. Or I've got all this terrain, or I guess I'll have a go with it, right? But then I understand that Games Workshop gave away a load of the Into the Dark terrain. Like the LVO, the reason that was 100% Into the Dark terrain was basically because they had a load of Into the Dark terrain that was provided for them free by Games Workshop, and they didn't weirdly have, because the LVO's not in a friendly local gaming store, so they didn't just have generic terrain. They didn't actually have a load of Season 1 terrain. If you remember years ago now, when Glandy TO'd the LVO, and he did a whole behind the scenes thing of it, and he was talking about the terrain, it was all really hard. So that's why I think they pivoted to full Into the Dark. So again, if Games Workshop gives this stuff away to big TOs, maybe then that kind of forces the community to go, we'll use it. Maybe the community goes, oh yeah, we'll use it for some Season 1 boards, where we just put the terrain down but on the board without the water. I don't know. But I think if you're a grinder, if you're someone that wants to be the best, and you want to be a Kill Team master, like no one ever was, then I guess to play a lot of games on each layout is in many ways your real quest that you have to undertake. And so at that point, I think it's gonna feel really samey, because you're gonna have to play, dozens and dozens of reps, as the elite players call them, because they're not games, they're not fun, they're just reps, like in the gym, like, I gotta grow. But then I guess once you're approaching it with that elite grind mindset, do you care? I'm sure there's a midpoint of people that play more games than me. I estimate I'll play 10 games of this before it becomes irrelevant. Plus, if tournaments adopt it, maybe that number goes up a little bit, right? If a tournament is 4 rounds, then maybe 1 round of the tournament's on this, and then so 15 games of this. I reckon I'll play about 15 games on it before it becomes absorbed into the Kill Team, the new edition of Kill Team that I feel is going to come out in a year anyway. And I think people need to get, and I'm going to get really off topic now, I think people really need to get realistic about how much they interact with this stuff, because we spend a lot of time thinking about war games and thinking about 40k, and then sit down and go, how many games of Kill Team do I play? Well, I play once a week with Zimbad. How many models can I get painted in a week, in a month, in a year? And how many models do I need to buy? And how much this and how much that? And try and think, I love Warhammer. I do Warhammer a lot. I'm surrounded in this room. I've got a whole room of my house that's basically very Warhammer. It's not just Warhammer. I play video games in here, and I do some work in here as well, unfortunately. But it's very Warhammer oriented. And then actually you look at how many games of these things you get in. No, I don't actually think the repetition is that much of a problem. But I can see a world in which it could be a problem. I don't think I'm going to get bored of a thing after 10 games in a year. I'm not going to feel that it's a closed, it's a solved thing after that level of play. But if you were just playing this, this is the thing. There were some people when I'm fully in soapbox mode now. I hope you don't mind. Some people, when Into the Dark came out, you were like, yes, Into the Dark. That's all I'm playing. Octarius get in the bin. And And so then if you're playing once a week in a club or whatever, that's 52 games on Into the Dark, and that is going to get quite stale. And that is, I think, why people rapidly took Octarius out of the bin and went, well, look, no, Octarius is, and the other, I call it Octarius because people don't seem to much play on the other 3 kill zones that we have nearly as much, but the Season 1 stuff is far more varied. So I think this is, people aren't going to stop playing Into the Dark, people aren't going to stop playing Season 1. I don't think I'm that worried. I think if Kill Team had launched with this, and that was it, it'd be a really poor move. I think as a flavour, an extra modified game coming in, like, yeah, why not? Now, does that make Kill Team really unappealing? This is not, I would say, an appealing jumping on point for the new player, which is a weird one from Games Workshop's point of view, but then I don't think on balance that Into the Dark was a great jumping on point for a new player. I think as a new player, Season 1 is where it is at. I think that's not really even a point of contention, really. I think the other mode, Into the Dark feels like a modification with extra concerns layered on top, and this is going to be more of the same, I think. So, yes, the printed board hurts replayability, but I would submit most people aren't going to play that many games of it. Right, it's going to go in the rotation with the other modes. Let's talk about these tokens. So I didn't talk about these tokens, when the all the stuff from Warhammer Day, because I didn't. This is from an image, so the full image is in the top right-hand corner, and you may not have seen this image. So this is an image they didn't use on Warcom and they didn't use on Twitch. This image only came from social media, so it was on Facebook and it was on Instagram, and it gives us a close-up of the tokens that they're talking about. We can all see the cards and the format for the data cards, and it's all very interesting. But the tokens, listen, if you've played Kill Team 2018, this is very familiar of what we got in Kill. So in Kill Team 2018, you bought a box, you got a team, you got cards, and you got a cardboard token set very similar to this, with bespoke tokens, cardboard tokens, themed around your team, right? So these tokens here are themed around the Raven Guard. That's why they're black and white like that. And you can just see a little hint of the Eldar tokens peeking in behind them there. Now, I was looking at these, trying to work out if they told us anything about the kill zone. We've got, it looks, interesting things they might tell us about the team. We got a trap token up there on the top row, the grenade with the pin, with the tripwire over the edge of the pin. So maybe they're going to be able to set a mine or a trap. On the bottom row, we've got some what look like smoke grenades. On the second to last row, some smoke grenades. On the bottom row, some kind of conceal token of some sort, maybe. Replacing the triangles. I'm not sure. 2 tokens, sort of third from the bottom was a knife. Maybe that's the engage order. I don't know. Can't work out what that one in the dead middle is supposed to be. A sort of weird shape. I don't know. We got the -1 AP. Maybe with +1 AP on the other side. Okay. Now, what's interesting on that second to last row, the second from top row, I should say, there's 2 teleport beacon tokens there. Do you remember what I was saying about maybe things would be, for this game mode, they'd be coming in from weird board edges or different places? Maybe the reason that there's those 9 objective markers and they're kind of 3-dimensional is maybe you turn them on and you're going to be like deep strike, and it would be a bit of a weird one in the lore because obviously scouts don't deep strike typically. But maybe you turn on like homing beacons or might more sense, way gates or something else, or whatever different lore thing you have, and you bring on parts of your team piecemeal through the game. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know, but that definitely looks like a little teleport homer, doesn't it? That you get from the Terminator, the plastic Terminator kit. You get the little teleport homer. That's what that is with the little light on the little stick. It's exactly what that is, right? And then the lines, the sunrise lines, tell me it's been activated. So I feel like the game mode might have something to do with that. I don't know. I've written on the slide that I can't see anything pertaining to the kill zone because this stuff literally comes to me now. These are not scripted. Script. Um, this is just going to be now off the top of my head. Looking at it and go, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Is there any on there that could be a guard token? Maybe the little camo cloak tokens that are for the conceal order. Maybe they have the other one on the other side. Maybe the knife tokens are the guard tokens. I have not really based it on anything other than a lot of people have sort of said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if guard came to open play? Season 1 type play. Guard from Into the Dark. I don't have the tactical. I don't have the tactical brain cells to kind of work out whether that would be a good thing. I feel like it would be, but it's just a feeling, right? Someone who's actually good at the game needs to really break down the minutiae of whether that would be a great thing. But maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's just somebody wishlisting. I don't know. Water. There's a lot of water on the map. I've taken a nice close-up picture of the water. We don't really know what the water does. There were some terrain rules in White Dwarf for Kill Team a long time ago. They published a whole little table of very narrative, and you'll see just how narrative these rules are at the moment. They are quite kind of casual rules, but they published a whole load of rules for basically so you could play Kill Team with whatever bits of 40k terrain you had, and they had some rules for lakes and water. And it was roll dice from this table to determine an effect. So, on a 1 or 2, it's a Promethean lake. Operatives cannot make shooting attacks with weapons that have blast, splash, or torrent, and any other weapons that the players feel are inappropriate in a flammable environment, e.g. grenades. I mean, first of all, I love that rule because I can just sort of see, someone can you roll a crit, I can see the steam that would emanate from the ears if that actually found its way into a rule. But what do you feel is appropriate? What? We're here to play a tightly controlled, competitive miniatures game, Games Workshop. I don't feel anything. I merely roll the dice and can calculate my strategy. Is it saying that I can't use grenades? So obviously, the wording would have to be tightened up, or the internet would actually go into a meltdown. I don't think they're going to use Promethean Lake, but toxic chemical pools, given that in the Warhammer article, the fume-shrouded oceans of Beta Decima were called out as being toxic, maybe the toxic chemical pools rule or something similar to it after a bit of iteration could come up. So let's look at that. Each time a friendly operative is activated, if it has a conceal order and is more than an inch from terrain features with heavy trait, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's very milquetoast, right? Because you don't suffer any wounds if you're not on a conceal order. But if that was changed so, you get D3 mortal wounds whenever you're in the water, unless you're within an inch of something with the heavy trait, I could see that being a good rule, because you don't want it to be, you've been pushed off the bridge, you instantly die. That's not fun. But if you end up in the water, then you go, oh shit, I'm in this water. I'm going to lose wounds every time I activate. I've got to abandon my plan and try and get to a ladder and get out of the water because I'm dying. I mean, it's interesting. And maybe you up it so it's not D3, maybe you up it so it's D6 mortal or D3 plus 2 or something else. I mean, and then for some armies, as an intercessor, you go, I've got 18 wounds. Do I make the calculated decision to go through the water? Because it's, I reckon I can get through a certain amount of the water in one turn. I could enter the water and leave the water in the same movement, so I'd never activate in the water, or I'd go through it, activate once, eat the wounds, and then go through it again and get out. That's interesting. So I think that could go hand in hand with the next rule, which is Hulk Swamp, which is subtract circle from each operative's movement characteristic to a minimum of 2 circle. That would be really useful as well. And it would also give, Halfkin and Heretic Circle and things like that a little bit of a advantage, because if your movement's always 2 circle, then you've got less to lose by wading through the water, which makes those teams a little bit kind of better and cool, which is nice, because people always say, oh, the 2 circle move thing's a massive handicap for various reasons. Well, it would be a little something. It will be a little something. Now, some people on my Discord have been it also says it's going to be fume shrouded. So does that mean there's going to be a problem with, a problem with shooting across the water? Maybe you won't be able to shoot more than red if you're on the ground level and your line of sight is being drawn across the water at any point. Maybe you won't be able to shoot across the water at all. I don't know. Or maybe, if I imagine if you're off the ground level, you can shoot over. I imagine it being like a rolling fog, like a dense rolling fog thing at the bottom there. And then as you got higher up, you'd have clearer air. Let's get back to here. Let's look at the map. So it's considering the fire lanes here are really interesting. If we imagine, and look, friends, this could be just, I'm a photographer. I need to take a picture for the packaging or whatever it is. I'm just going to take what looks cool. But let's just consider fire lines here. So, you've got no. First of all, the first thing to note is that as I've said before, these things have been changed. In the original Sector Mechanicus, you can see it best on this one. In the original Sector Mechanicus, there was no fill in here, so these were clear in the middle. They've been deliberately changed, and they had the middles filled in with some of the parts. So I would consider that there's a considered choice here to make these solid pieces. So if you're standing, I'll just get another colour here. Let's go for orange. I've not used orange yet, have I? Wonderful. So if we imagine that blue here is a deployment zone, you can't shoot through. You can't shoot this way past about here. It doesn't really look like you can shoot through here anyway. This one's coming down here, right? You might narrowly have a shot between these two. To anything that's kind of deployed here. There might be a really narrow area where you can do that. Your shooting's pretty obscured here by this. And then up on this side, you've got your shooting's obscured down here by this thing. So there might be a little gap in between. There might not be, but then you've got this one in here. So there's not really, as far as I can see, all the way across, the way they've got this laid out, all the way across on the pond. I'm going to get a new colour of pen to make it really clear. The only place where I can see possibly that there's a shot from one drop zone into the other drop zone is maybe you can get a shot there like that. Maybe you can just about thread one. But then again, these here, is there a tangible gap there? Like, it's really hard to tell from the angle, because obviously what you want to do is come round and look at it from the player's eye view. But this is set up in such a way that actually, for all people say it's really open, if you're at ground level, there's no shots, right? There's none. And the counterpoint to that is, if you choose to start on this thing, you can shoot everywhere, right? But then you can also be shot, right, from everywhere. Now, I think, sure, a sniper on conceal behind a barricade that's been placed on the terrain, if we're assuming this is a standard layout, is definitely going to be a useful piece, to say the least. But anything other than that, I don't actually think it's going to be the killing field for shots that people think it is, even without a rolling fog rule. Now, what's interesting about this whole dynamic, though, right? If you imagine it's short table edges, which is what I'm imagining it is, because that's how it's just to my eye, that's how the terrain makes sense. And that's where you've got the space to put down. If I'm wrong about people coming in from multiple angles, that's just where you've got space to put down your guys, because that's where you've got that bigger, thicker deployment zone. If we look at the other, but then again, if all the maps are going to be shorties, that makes it more difficult for replayability. But if you get round the sides, if you flank, well, suddenly, because of the shape of the terrain here, this is all open fire lane from here through to here, right? This is all open fire lane, right? This is all open fire lane, to the whole of that. All under this is open fire lane. Like, if you get on long edges, if you get someone up here on flanking, then it's potentially pretty good. But I actually think maybe I could be wrong. Maybe that makes for an exciting game, doesn't it? You know, actually, I think, and that's before. Maybe there's this toxic fume, so you can't shoot over the water at all. But actually, the way this is laid out, I don't think you've got that many. Potentially one, a green. I know I've scribbled all over this like a child on a wall with a Crayola, but I think there's only that green line where there's potentially a shot from one drop zone into the other. I think it's very deceptive in how it's been deployed in a very specific way to not be really open. Now, look, the board doesn't have a grid. It's going to be very easy to, if this is the idea, it's very easy for people to make a really bad layout of this terrain, right? Because there's a lot of having to look and place those things in a very specific way to make sure that from the point of view of the player here, right, looking this way as a plane, that there is a wall with one tiny gap in precisely, but there is a wall, so you cannot shoot all the way across to the other drop zone. But actually doing that in practice is hard. Now, there's no grid on the map, so they could give you prescribed maps in the map pack. Be a little bit hard because to see from the photograph exactly where you had to put anything. I think that's going to be tricky if that is what they're trying to do. Nine objectives is interesting. Those objectives must do something else in this game mode, because it looks like to me everybody's going to start with 2, right, on that layout. And everybody's got pretty easy reach of a third. So I don't know. I mean, and of course they're solid objectives. So what are we doing with them? Are we in base contact with them, or do we have to put a circle under them, or do they just actually follow the same as the old objective rules, and therefore no one's going to use the 3D objectives because the rules don't actually support them? But yeah, it's really interesting. Another question I'm going to ask is, how's anybody getting up here? Up this thing? Because at least the way they deployed it, there's no... Where I've drawn with purple, there's no ladder. I think there is a ladder on this, but right now the ladder is facing out into the ocean. Now, there is a door here that I've just covered up. I can erase that for you. Let me just... Bang, right? So there is a door facing onto the land here. So maybe there's... and this looks like a hatch. If you look at these, it says that there are 9 objective markers, but they look like different things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and one here, 6, look like they're transmitters. No, that isn't 6, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 look like they're transmitters, and then 6, 7, 8, 9 look like hatches. Don't they? That looks like a little hatch. Now, these ones are hatches to nowhere, because they're on top of a flat bit of floor, but it does look like maybe you go in the door and you come out the hatch. I don't know, but I don't know how it works. So that's all I've got. Hopefully you've enjoyed the ramble. I've answered nothing, but hopefully I've given you something to think about. That's all I've got. Have you got any thoughts? Anything I've said struck a chord, or I missed anything that's been super obvious to you and been discussed in your community? Let me know in the comments below. I think the rules for this terrain, obviously you want the rules for the teams. Sure, yeah. But at the end of the day, the rules for the teams are not totally predictable. I make room for the fact we might find them surprising, but you've seen the models, you've seen what they're armed with. You watch my video where I go, well, these are what the models do, this is what was said, this is probably what's going to happen. There may be some big surprises there. They've already told us the biggest surprise. The big surprise is that the Striking Scorpions can use Banshees and Dire Avengers. That's the biggest rule spoiler already out the bag, isn't it? If you ask me. So the terrain rules, on the other hand, that's the biggest enigma, question mark, and weird thing when it comes to this release. And it's been a really interesting video to make. I've thought of some new stuff while I was recording it. Maybe you have too. Maybe, again, you've got anything else to share, let me know in the comments. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for your support. The channel's been really well recently, so comments, subscriptions, they all really do help. Obviously, the subscriber goals to get to that 10k, we're a long way away, but if I don't keep mentioning it every time, then people won't. Like, remember, you're not subscribing. YouTube likes to say, oh yes, subscribe so you can find out when, and you're like, I don't need to subscribe, I'll catch his thing, it'll come up on the Discord, it'll come. You're not subscribing for you subscribe for me, right? You're doing it to be kind to me. That's why you would subscribe. Actually subscribing for yourself so that you don't miss a video is, we all know that YouTube's algorithm is so good that you barely need to subscribe to a channel anymore. If you watch a channel every single time it comes out, then when that channel releases a new video, YouTube will absolutely smash it into your face. Because you kind of end up soft subscribed to the channel, right? So you don't actually need to press the subscribe button, right? But for someone like me who wants to be able to justify, say to like Games Workshop, like, oh look, I've got all these subscribers, please send me some free products, I'd love to talk about them, and then that is a really visible way of me saying, look, I'm a proper big boy YouTube channel. So really, really helpful. To my kind of dozen or so stalwart channel memberships that actually give me some money every month. Hey, I put out a member exclusive video yesterday. Wasn't very good, but my members enjoyed it, right? That's the paradox of paid for content. It's lower quality, but it's more intimate. So if you're curious about that, consider membership. We've got a Discord. If you're on this and you're not on the Discord, why? The Discord is free. You don't need to be a member. You don't need to be anything. You just check the link below, join the Discord. If you're old, it's like IRC Discord. If you haven't dabbled with Discord, it's like IRC. If you're a young person, I don't know what the analogy would be. If you're a young person, surely you already know what Discord is. It's like a big WhatsApp group that doesn't have to be imprisoned on you. Don't worry, young people, it can work on a phone, okay? But if you're like me, and I recently had to reinstall WhatsApp because some work colleagues are like, oh, we're going to make a WhatsApp group. And I'm like, who uses WhatsApp? What? But I like things that can be on the big computer, So off topic. So, this is what the members video is very like. We're going to have a hobby stream on Tuesday. If you like watching me go off on one about nothing relevant to anything, but then occasionally bringing it back to Warhammer, join the hobby stream on Tuesday. We're going to be doing some hobby. We're going to be chatting about stuff, probably some of the rumours that are flying around, who knows what. And if you do join the Discord, there's still a little bit of time to join the Badab War Hobby Challenge. If you can paint a kill team in a month, themed around one of the chapters of the Badab War, you can get them featured in a video. How cool is that? Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday for the hobby stream. Cheery bye.